Okay, so up next we have John Rice. John Rice is with Apex Accelerator. So after serving in the military for 21 years, John has spent time as an operational analyst, industrial specialist with Defense Contract Management Agency, the federal government warranted contracting officer with the Department of Interior, National Park Service, the Lake Mead National Recreation Area, and a short stint with the City of Las Vegas's Economic Development Department. Currently, he is serving as a government contracts advisor with Nevada Apex Accelerator, formerly known as Nevada PTAC. So, John, if you're ready, go ahead and take it away, my friend.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. So good evening, Stephen and everyone. And Stephen, thank you for that nice introduction. So on behalf of our director, Joan Rubin, thanks for the invite so we can provide some information and a general walkthrough of the IDIQ process to help any business out there that might want to pursue that solicitation once the BLM issues that. So I'm John Rice. I'm a government contracts advisor with the Southern Nevada office here at the Nevada Apex Accelerator, formerly known as the Nevada Procurement Technical Assistance Center, PTAC. And so they changed our name, but we still provide the services to our clients. So after this training, we hope that you'll have a basic and general understanding about the IDIQ process and the various phases involved and the actions required for each one of those phases. In other words, understanding the who, what, when, where, and how as it relates to the process. And I emphasize the word generally because this training will not focus on specifics. These specifics will be guided by the actual solicitation when it's issued. So some of the things you'll hear me say will be a repeat from some of the things that Ian said because some of the things, the process remains the same. So, but before I get to the part of the training, I'd like to just give a brief overview about our office and the Apex Accelerator program and talk a little bit about the services that's included in the program, and all those services are free. And the benefit of those services is to help Nevada businesses pursue government contracts and subcontracts. And so I'd encourage any business, or especially your producers, that should sign up to become active clients where they can receive the free services in the program, especially tailored one-on-one counseling to help them understand the solicitation process and to get more in-depth in reviewing the solicitation, understanding all the terms and conditions, and understanding the process and how to fill things out so they can submit the best proposal that they can. And so at the end of the day, we're all on the same team, trying to help the agency accomplish that mission. In order to do that, to help them get the products that they need, in order to do that, we want to try to get as many qualified contractors on contract as we can. So next slide, please. So what is the Apex Accelerator? Basically, the Apex Accelerator is a taxpayer-funded resource to help Nevada businesses pursue local, state, and federal government contracting and subcontracting. Of course, all of our services are free of charge. The Apex Accelerator is funded in part through a corporate agreement with the Department of Defense. Next slide. So our program covers the entire state of Nevada. We service all Nevada counties. The program seeks to assist established Nevada businesses that want to work with government agencies and government prime contractors. And so there are basically a few requirements in order to sign up to become an active client. Number one, you have to have a primary and physical address in the state of Nevada, and you have to complete what we call a client questionnaire form. That questionnaire form is basically the document that we review in order to assess the eligibility requirements to bring into the program. The document just asks for basic information about your company, the name of your company, the physical address for your company, the point of contact, and things of that nature. And of course, you have to sign it with a wet signature and date it. And on that form itself, there's a website, a link to where you'll upload that form to. And once that form works its way through our system, you'll be assigned a primary counselor, and that primary counselor will be able to spend time with you and helping you work through the process and things of that nature. Next slide. Some of our main goals, the big one is to increase the number of Nevada companies that are capable of doing business with the government and government contractors. And how we do that, we execute the myriad of services that's included in the program. In a later slide, I'll talk about some of those. And of course, the primary reason for that is to help government agencies accomplish their mission. And of course, we want to create jobs in the state of Nevada. We want to retain jobs, and we want to diversify Nevada's statewide economy. Next slide. So this slide just shows probably about half of the services in the program. On our website, on our homepage, there's a more extensive list that goes into more detail and more specificity about each one of the services. But looking at this slide, there are three of the services that really comes into focus, which is the subject of this training. One is solicitation assistance. The other one is proposal reviews. And the third one is contract assistance. And so what that means is that when this solicitation is actually issued, then your primary counselor can help you review that solicitation, and especially if you're new to government contracting, because the government contracting process can be a little bit complex. There are some nuances to it. The process is fairly rigid. And so your primary advisor can help level set your expectations, help you understand the terms and conditions, the instructions that you're gonna have to follow in order to submit an acceptable proposal, because there's two main things to understand about pursuing government contracts. You can submit your proposal on time, but if it's not acceptable, you're not competing. And so that's very important to know. In addition to that, your primary counselor can help you review your proposal before you send it in to the contracting officer or the source selection official. Help make sure you're crossing all your T's, you're dotting all your I's, and you're following the criteria to the T. You're not out, you're making no assumptions. And the purpose of that, because the contracting officer has to do a fair evaluation of all the proposals that comes in, and being on the same team, we're all after the same goal. We want to help the client submit in the best proposal that they can. And that helps saves the contracting officer's time when they got to do the evaluation. So they're expecting to receive proposal then that then complies with the solicitation and these solicitation requirements. Next slide. So these next three slides, not going to spend a lot of time on them. It's basically giving information about the amount of money that the government spends in contracting every year. The federal government spends approximately $637 billion in FY21 on government contract, and that was an increase of $54 billion over FY20. And of course, we all know about COVID. The government spent a lot of money during the COVID pandemic and things of that nature. Next slide. And continuing on, this slide just details the amount of money that the government spent on small businesses, $154 billion. And that was an $8 billion increase over FY20. And of course, the federal government exceeded its 23% small business statutory requirement goals for FY21. Next slide. This slide details the amount of money that the government awarded to subcontracts for small businesses. And so it's a sizable amount as well. All right. And again, if you combine the federal government, state governments, and local education market, that's approximately $1.5 trillion market of government contract spent annually. Next slide. Okay, you can skip that slide. Next slide. So this slide details our colleagues where I sit in our Southern Nevada office with the director and the deputy, and we have an office at the state capitol in Carson City. We have two counselors up there, Ken DuBose and Bruce Coney, and they provide the service and assistance for clients in our northern area. So for any of your producers or small business that wants to sign up to become active clients, they'll be assigned counselors with either Ken DuBose or Bruce Coney. And so we highly recommend that you reach out and you click on this link that'll take you to our landing page, our website. On our website, there's going to be two documents on there. One document is going to be an information document, like I said earlier, that details all of the services in the program and kind of identifies and talks about how we provide those services to stay in scope. And there's going to be a second document that call it client questionnaire. That is the document that you have to complete, fill out, then sign it and date it and upload to the site. Within a few business days, you'll be contacted by one of those counselors, and they get you started, where they can give you counseling, one-on-one counseling to help prepare you to pursue the IDIQ contract. So next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about, and like I said earlier, some of this is going to be a little bit of a repeat from what Ian was talking about earlier, but I'm going to go into a little more detail and kind of level set expectations, kind of help you understand the general overall process. And I use that word again, generally speaking, because all the specificity is going to be detailed in the actual solicitation once BLM puts that on the street. So what is an IDIQ? Just like Ian said earlier, it's basically a contract that allows the government to acquire the supplies and services that they need, but they don't know the exact quantity of future deliveries right now. Whereas they want to get everything set up to be prepared to when those quantities are needed, where the process will be more efficient to get orders out there. And so the next question might be, well, why does the government use IDIQ contracts, right? Well, number one, it gives the government flexibilities, right? It helps the government maintain stock levels and provide quantities and delivery schedules. So once that contract is set up and the government gets as many contractors on that list as they can, it basically improves the process. We don't have to go out and redo it all over again. And so these next slides, we're going to get into a little bit more details about the different phases of the IDIQ process. And this is general information, but it basically pertains to any federal agency because they're going to use the federal acquisition regulation. They're going to use the same regulation. And so these next slide is going to kind of work through that process to kind of level set, to give a basic understanding and a basic high level view of that process and what to expect during each one of those phases, generally speaking, not all inclusive, because it's going to basically depend on the contracting officer is going to drive the process, and that person is going to put the solicitation out and going to be required to execute the contracting process. Next slide. So, like Ian said earlier, the market research phase and the pre-solicitation, generally speaking, the agency is going to start their initial planning. They're going to define the requirements. They have early exchange with industries or outreach with industries like Industry Day. And during the market research phase, they will either submit out, like Ian said, a request for information or a source assault notice. And both documents are considered market research tools, where basically the government is trying to solicit information, engage, and determine the interest in a particular acquisition. And so, or an RFI might ask industry to provide feedback. Like Ian was saying earlier, you know, parties during that time would have an opportunity to help fashion the acquisition, because at the end of the day, the agency wants to put out the best solicitation that they can put out, right? And so having, you know, interested parties in industry and early engagement, it just helps the agency do that. They're going to publish sometimes they might publish a pre-solicitation before they publish the actual solicitation. Like Ian was saying earlier, that document is going to be generated on sam.gov, which is the GPE, the government's point of entry for all federal government solicitations that are required to be competed and put out for bid or put out for proposal and things that. Solicitation is generally like a heads up. It's going to have valuable information about what the agency is trying to do. It may have the attachments, you know, where interested parties can get a feel of what's going to be involved in the actual solicitation. And most of the times, the solicitation, the pre-solicitation turns out to be the actual solicitation that just changed the name, right? You know, to make things more efficient. So, next slide. So the next phase is the solicitation and award phase. And generally speaking, during this phase, the agency is going to publish the solicitation on sam.gov. And because the Department of Interior organizations sometimes use a site called FedConnect, if that is the case, generally there's going to be a hyperlink in the solicitation on sam.gov to where interested parties will click on that hyperlink and then the system will direct them over to Fed Connect. And there you'll be able to find all of the documents like the actual solicitation, the 1449 solicitation for commercial is what the agency is probably going to use. And there you'll also see all the attachments and associated document that goes along with that solicitation. And so because the agencies has been doing this for quite some time, they're probably really good and solid solicitations. And inside the solicitation, that's going to be instructions of what to do and when to do it and how to do it. And one of the most important things about government contracting is just if you can follow the instructions and follow the guidelines and make no assumptions, don't read anything in, don't read anything out, you got half the battle won. And of course, after the solicitation is issued, like Ian was saying earlier, interested parties will have an opportunity to ask questions and get questions answered or get clarifications done. And so if there's a Q&A, then the agencies are probably going to do what we call an amendment to the solicitation and publish all the question answers back out into the public domain for all interested parties, get all the information at the same time. And the good thing about that is that helps interested parties put together their proposal. And so the contracting officer can extend the proposal due dates if they decide that that's necessary. And then interested parties will receive proposal from interested parties. And so one of the most important things that has to be done is that they're going to have to complete the System for Awards Management registration. That is a requirement for any business that wants to do business with the government. And SAM registration is somewhat complex, and especially if you've never been through SAM before. But that's where your Apex Accelerator comes in, and your counselor can help you understand what you're going to have to do in order to get your SAM registration completed. That's a whole nother, can be a whole nother training exercise. But because of the complexities in SAM, I highly recommend, again, that you sign up to be a client, and we can help get you prepared. Because if your SAM registration is not active in the system, then you're not going to be allowed to submit your proposal. You can submit it, but it's probably not going to be accepted. And so during the solicitation review, you're going to need to thoroughly review the solicitation, and that's going to be including all the attachments and associated documents, and follow the instructions to the T. And again, submit your questions and get answers and clarifications where it can help you put together your proposal. And submit your proposal on time by the due date. Late is late, which the work and the resources and time to put together a proposal on time. And I can almost guarantee you, if it's not on time, it's going to be rejected. It's not going to be acceptable. And the reason for that is that the contracting officer has to execute the process legally, not give preferential treatment to any potential offers. And so if they accept your proposal outside of the due date, they just probably violated the rules. So you're probably not going to do that. Next slide. So during the receipt of proposal, evaluation of proposals, and award, generally speaking, the agency will receive the proposals as they come in, and then acceptability to make sure that they comply with the requirements and the criteria stated in the solicitation. And if they don't, it's probably going to be rejected. And so now you're not competing. The agency is going to evaluate the acceptable proposals based on the technical acceptability requirements and the evaluation factors to determine who offers the best value to the government. Sometimes the agency can open negotiation or discussion, and basically that process allows the agency to negotiate with interested parties, all of the parties that submitted in a proposal. If they open negotiation with one, they got to open negotiation with all parties that submitted in a proposal. And so the agency can use that process to get the best value. That process can also allow interested parties to make minor corrections or adjustment to that proposal. And basically, it gives the contracting officer flexibility, to get the job done. And so the agency can make multiple awards, and the benefit of that is that to get as many contractors on contract as they can. Basically, you have a pre-qualified list of contractors, right? And the agency, after the evaluation is done, the contracting officer usually will issue notices to unsuccessful offers, and then also issue notices to the successful offers. And that's generally how that process works. Next slide. So after the contract's awarded and you have the contract holders, you have a list of pre-qualified contractors, then you get into the post-award and the ordering period. And so the distinction between getting a contract for an IDIQ, you haven't made any money yet. Okay, you have a contract. So in order to make some money, that's where the ordering phase comes in. When the need arises from the agency, contracting officer issues delivery order requests for proposals. And so all contract holders are required to get a fair opportunity, to be awarded a purchase order. And of course, there are some exceptions, like if there's a micro purchase, generally the contracting officer is not required to do that. But that's an occasion that the contracting officer will make. And all scope of the IDIQ, in other words, the government has to say what it's going to do and do what it says. It can't change things after the contract has been awarded and all those types of things. That brings up, a whole host of issues that the agencies don't want to be involved in. And then all orders must clearly describe the supplies to be delivered. And that's where the flexibility comes in for the government. Once they get the IDIQ issued and get contractors on contract, all orders must be within the period of performance. And these are going to be some of the particulars in the actual solicitation and in the contract. Once those contracts are awarded, orders are within maximum value of the contract. And then, of course, the contract officer is going to monitor performance and the deliveries and authorized invoice payments, accepted by the government. Next slide. And so in reflection, the IDIQ contract is a contract vehicle used to award multiple contracts to establish a list of pre-qualified contractors. Interested parties should fully review the solicitation and all attachments and associated documents, and including any amendments to the solicitation. Interested parties should attend and participate in any offered outreach event or industry days or pre-solicitation meetings and things of that nature. And that's where you have more opportunity to get your questions answered and get things clarified and things of that nature. In addition to that, during the solicitation phase, you can submit questions and help fashion the acquisition to help the agency accomplish its mission. And interested parties should submit acceptable and the best proposal on time that are in strict compliance with the criteria and requirements of the solicitation. And of course, we monitor notices and our communication from the agency. Next slide. And with that, that's a quick run through, a down and dirty walkthrough of the solicitation phase. Like I said, this is just general information. When the solicitation comes out, that's when the actual contracting process starts. And the contracting officer is going to drive and control that process. And where the Apex Accelerator and your primary counsel comes in is helping you get through the solicitation, to help you review the solicitation, to help you understand the terms and conditions and the requirements, to help make sure that you understand what the process is, what you can expect generally as a process unfolds. And then you decide that you're gonna actually pursue the contract and you get your proposal together. Before you submit that in to the contract officer or the source selection official, your counselor can then again probably exercise the same process that the contract officer is going to do, going to table your proposal, table the solicitation, and go through it from cover to cover to make sure you cross all your T's, make sure you're dotting all your I's, to make sure you have all the attachment to your package that's required. any kind of associated documents that you're required to attach to a package to make sure that you submit in the best proposal that you can to give yourself the best chance to be awarded a contract to get on that list to be able to sell your products to the government. So with that, open up for questions.
Well, thanks so much, John. I mean, that was an incredible presentation, very, very detailed. Any questions in the room right now?
I have a question. How far in advance should you set up with a counselor? Like, do you have to wait until the solicitation is out and you know you want to apply, or should you start working with someone way in advance?
That's an excellent question, and you should start right now because the earlier that you get assigned your counselor, it just makes the process more efficient because number one, is going to take you some time to get your SAM registration done. Like I was saying earlier, that is a requirement to be able to pursue that IDIQ contract. And SAM is a whole nother process that's involved because there are several entities involved in completing that SAM registration. You have the federal service that's involved. You have the Defense Justice Agency cage code team that's a final check in that. And so where the Apex Accelerator and your counsel comes in is helping you get all your documents prepared for SAM to help you understand how that process works. And then as a matter of fact, when it's ready to submit your SAM registration, they can actually see what you're seeing to help you make sure you're putting in the correct information to get through all the tabs, because SAM can be pretty complex. And so the earlier that you can submit the client questionnaire, it's just going to be better for the entire process. And the other good benefit of that is that you can start asking those contracting questions and get familiar with what is going to be happening during that process. And then you'll have a free resource at your disposal to help you get the assistance that you need. So the earlier, the better.
I have another question. Thank you, John. So you're
Absolutely.
for Nevada, you're for Nevada specifically, but is there a counterpart in every state?
That's an excellent question. And yes, there are, as a matter of fact, there are 95 Apex accelerators across the continental United States. And that's including, we have one in Guam, and our territories in Guam, Hawaii, and Puerto Rico. And every state has an Apex accelerator because the procurement outreach program is a DoD funded program, okay? And so that's why the requirements for a client to sign up for our program, their business has to be physically located in the state of Nevada. So if a business is located in Utah, they would contact the Utah Apex Accelerator program to receive the counseling. But either way, small business can get the assistance that they need regardless of what state that they're in.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's a wonderful service. I mean, it's incredible that we have you guys available for us, especially these rural folks. I mean, do you guys schedule any sort of home appointments, or appointments only scheduled really in office in Reno or in Vegas?
So it all depends. We do outreach events. So with regards to assisting clients, so we can either go to the client's facility, or we can have the client, come to our office. It all depends on, what the client's needs are and availability. We can do counseling virtually. We can do counseling one-on-one. We can do group counseling and training. So the benefit and the primary purpose of the Apex Accelerator program is because the federal government recognized the complexities in pursuing government contracts. And with all the different certification, small business certification that are available to them and the SAM registration. And so what we do is we kind of like provide all the services and things that other government agencies can't do for one reason or another. And one primary example of that is that, during the acquisition process, when you look at those phases, there are certain phases to where, like, for example, during the evaluation phase, if a small business don't understand that The contracting officer is probably not going to respond to any questions during that phase, you know, because of, you know, the process and being able to carry out that process correctly. That's where an Apex counselor comes in, because we've been former government contracting officers, and we can kind of provide them the answers to help them understand, you know, what they need, so they're just not left with no services and things of that nature. That's just one example of many. So
Well, we're definitely thankful for you, especially when
absolutely,
it comes to state registration. That's a tough
absolutely.
process.
Yes, absolutely. Yes.
Okay, John, well, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. And I hope I was able to, you know, provide some information and encourage your businesses or your producers to sign up to become active clients, you know, to receive our free services to help them pursue those contracts. So thank you.